Ladies and gents, this video just popped up on my recommended feed. I guess YouTube works a lot of time. Why sinking an aircraft carrier is almost impossible. Have you had these moments with YouTube where something happens and some video pops up that is not directly linked to that, but it kind of points toward that, and you see those comments about, oh, YouTube has a sick sense of humor. This is one of those things. This has nothing to do with Iran, but this popped up because Iran was keep claiming that they sank Ford carrier and Lincoln and all these aircraft carriers. They attacked it and sinked it, apparently. They did that multiple times, and YouTube like, you know what, let's watch this video. I like how there is even comments. I'm like, yeah, but like, like Lincoln was hit and it ran away. And like, what are you talking about? Obviously, that's an old comment. Clearly, that wasn't the case. But yeah, I kind of knew about this because I have a general idea. You watch so much military thing and consume so much military information. Certain things are very intuit. Intuit, is that you know what I mean? Like, you can just feel certain things. And it just makes sense. Yeah, you can't just sink this humongous aircraft carrier. It's not going to be that easy. There's a reason why USA created a missile that's supposed to, like, what is it called? Quick sink, I think, right? And even that, can it really sink an aircraft carrier? Even US themselves have a hard time sinking their own aircraft carrier. This is going to be awesome. It's by the channel on what you think. I don't know when I've reacted to this channel last, but yeah, I've watched a lot of videos from this channel in the past. It's great. Let's watch this one.
In December 2023, an Iranian drone flying over the Persian Gulf was able to get close enough to the Eisenhower carrier strike group to record their movements, including their flight deck operations. To the uninformed, it seems alarming that the Navy's air defense was so easily infiltrated by a cheap drone. The thing is, letting the drone fly above the aircraft carrier wasn't a failure. It was a choice. The Spy-1 radar can easily see dirt in the sky, so the ships would have detected that Iranian drone from miles away. And they proved it by publishing this photo to show who's really in charge. But why not shoot down this pesky drone?
This is like a clip of a lion letting wolves come close, because lion knows that wolf is not doing anything to it. This is like that. Oh, look at that, there's a drone there. Hi, what you gonna do?
Well, the American warship was sailing in international waters, and the Iranian drone was flying in international airspace. Both are allowed. I bet the Sea Whiz was locked on and salivating. But that would have been the very last line of defense.
Sea Whiz like, say when.
If instead this was an anti-ship missile coming toward the carrier, it would have been a much more interesting scenario. Because even though an aircraft carrier is a beast of a ship and carries an air force that dwarfs that of most other nations, it cannot survive on its own. It in fact relies on a combination of support ships in order to defend itself. And once you see how this multi-layered defense works, you'd seriously question the sanity of those who dare to use anything but a camera to shoot it. A U.S. Navy carrier strike group is an offensive and defensive force made up of an aircraft carrier and its baddest buddies, a combination of Ticonderoga cruisers, Arleigh destroyers, and fast attack submarines, plus other logistics and
Oh, wait a minute. So it's not just Virginia. Los Angeles is also with it. That's why Los Angeles sank that frigate near Sri Lanka. That makes sense. So they have Ticonderoga, again, I can't pronounce that name for some reason, the cruisers, which has more VLS cells than the destroyers. And obviously you have destroyers, Arleigh. And then you have Virginia-class submarines, which is like, we know by now how insanely powerful they are. Especially like a warning shot that they gave to another submarine, which would bleed people out because the shock wave is so intense. I don't even want to imagine that. And also LA class submarine, the small one. The whole group is overpowered.
supply ships. The primary offensive firepower within the carrier strike group is of course provided by the carrier's air wing, which is primarily made up of FA-18 Super Hornets. Starting in 2021, F-35C squadrons have also been joining the Super Hornets on these missions. These aircraft can be catapulted from the carrier, then fly 1,000 miles or more to strike the enemy. The strike capabilities provided by the 40 to 50 fighter jets aboard a single American supercarrier is only slightly less than what the Canadian or Finnish Air Force currently provides. But the carrier air wing is not just an offensive force. The Super Hornets also make up the first layer of air defenses for a carrier strike group. Several fighters are kept on Combat Air Patrol or CAP, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, patrolling the sea hundreds of miles away from the task force.
That's what I was talking about. That every time you see videos of like, oh, what if something approaches? What if drones approaches? And even then, again, like I said, I've been like consuming so much military data. I kind of intuitively knew this. Like, obviously, you would have patrols of fighter jets in the sky and basically like switching constantly. So there is a patrol of jet always in the air. They can intercept drones and whatever coming close. So they don't have to, like waste Aegis system and SM interceptors. That just makes sense.
FA-18E costs $21,000 per flight hour. The F-35C costs even more, almost double that, at $44,000 per flight hour. And that's without shooting any missiles. If the CAP spots an approaching aircraft on a threatening flight profile, they would intercept the enemy aircraft or any missiles that it may have launched. If the target is beyond visual range, the AIM-120 with a price tag of about $1 million will be the weapon of choice. But if the target is in short range, the AIM-9 Sidewinder will be more appropriate. The Sidewinder missile costs less than half as much as the AIM-120 and is quite an old technology. Having been developed more than 70 years ago, the Sidewinder is the world's first infrared homing air-to-air guided missile.
What?
It's of course been upgraded since, but it hasn't been replaced. Remember the Chinese spy balloon back in 2023? It was a Sidewinder that brought it down.
F-22.
However, if an
Send in an F-22. All right, I guess it will do something. It's the most underused jet that is. Fine, it can shoot down balloon.
anti-ship missile somehow gets past the Super Hornets, the Arleigh destroyers and other ships in the carrier strike group are in charge of defending the aircraft carrier. And to do so, they use a multi-layered defense strategy. The first ship layer defense is provided by the Vertical Launch System or VLS cells on Ticonderoga cruisers and Arleigh destroyers. These cells are preloaded with a variety of missiles, anything from short-range SM-2 missiles, which is the Navy's go-to solution to defend against drones, airplanes, and cruise missiles, to SM-3s, which can intercept ballistic missiles in space. But these missiles aren't cheap, and defending against a swarm...
Damn, SM-3, $28 million. Oh my god, imagine that, like burning through SM-3s, like, oh, that feels, right? Like 28 million per missile. I mean, it's probably the best interceptor US has, so in term the world has, because it's the interceptor in the Aegis system. They're supposed to stop ICBMs even, or anything that comes from space, it's supposed to stop that. So it better cost that, right? Because it has to be that good. But 28 million, that's insane. Did USA use any SM-3s during Iran time? Because why would you, right? But then again, some ballistic missiles, like, yeah, SM-3 needs to be used. I don't know, man.
Of incoming drones using SM-2s can cost an arm and a leg. For example, over a 15-month period starting November 2023, the Navy fired over 200 missiles, including SM-2, SM-3, SM-6, and evolved Sea Sparrow missiles, to defeat 380 Houthi attack drones and ballistic and cruise missiles, targeting U.S. naval and merchant ships. The SM-2 cost $2.1 million apiece. They fired 120 of those alone, which would have cost the Navy $250 million. The SM-3 missiles are even more expensive, ranging in price from $9 million to $27 million each, depending on the variant. To change this cost-benefit equation, some are advocating for directed energy systems against unmanned systems.
I think we all along knew directed energy, where a drop of fuel becomes a weapon, is a way to go, and we have to continue to pursue that.
Over the past decade, these systems have indeed been tested on U.S. Navy warships. These laser weapons hit the target near instantly.
It's not just about a new thing that USA is like gambling on or something. Physics wise, if you can do this, this is the way to do it. It's the most efficient way of doing it, right? Lasers are the most efficient thing there is compared to missiles. Missiles, like, yeah, they have their own place, but if you can get the lasers right, that is much more advanced. Missiles or any kinetic thing is kind of crude, just like a bullet. If you think about it, it's kinetic. In the end of the day, you're throwing a metal and an explosive at something. Laser is advanced things. Like if you have control over like high energy output lasers, electromagnetic waves, that's next level. So if you can do this, of course, this is the way to go.
The speed of light. You don't run out of ammo as long as the ship has power, and cost about $1 per shot. They are perfect to target drones. The only thing is, laser beams can be deflected. So if there is heavy rain, the Navy may be forced to fire a multi-million-dollar missile to hit a cheap drone.
Imagine that. US Navy, US military intercepted 100 incoming missiles. Oh, how much did that cost? Oh, $100. That's it, $100. Okay, can you even find that in the like budget list because it's such a small number? I'm pretty sure somebody went out for dinner and that cost more than that in military. $100 to intercept 100 objects. That is insane.
But these missile interceptors are not 100% guaranteed, so other defense measures are needed. Electronic countermeasures and decoys can confuse the incoming threat. Each VLS cell can also be packed with 4 evolved Sea Sparrow missiles for medium-range targets.
Okay.
If all that fails and the missile gets within a mile or less from the ship, close-in weapon systems, or CWIS, is the last line of defense, and it works against surface threats too. The idea with CWIS isn't to bring down the missile with a single bullet, but to create a dense cloud of tungsten that the missile can't pass through without being shredded. To build this wall of metal, the CWIS can fire 75 tungsten or depleted uranium rounds per second.
I like how it's not named phalanx because that is what I think of. Don't think of it as a bullet. Think of it as like a spread of bullet or spread of metal going towards something, basically ensuring it stops it. Basically how you would use a shield or like shield bass to stop an incoming attack. In a way, basically how like Greeks, Spartans, whatever used to do with phalanx and shield, right? So this is a shield in a way. Even though it's a bullet, it's offensive, it spreads in a way that it might as well be a sheet of metal coming towards something. So it will hit whatever is coming towards it. And it does it so fast and it is, so accurate without any kind of input from any human. It just does it. So this is literally last defense. Like, yeah, it will stop something that's coming towards it unless it gets overwhelmed.
When the threat is that close to the ship, there's no time for human reaction, which is why CWIS is fully autonomous, from detection to destruction. At this point, the aircraft carrier might be doing some wild maneuvers too, as a last resort.
Drifting.
Thankfully, the gyro stabilization allows CWIS to stay on target, even during rolls and sharp turns.
I mean, you just need good hydraulics and a good computer system in it. The processing is so fast that however bobs and weaves the ship does, it's very slow. Think of it like it can see things in slow motion. So those waves are not that fast for it. So it can like adjust for it very easily.
Every ship in the fleet has a Snoopy on board. When an
What?
unknown aircraft, ship, or object that may be a potential threat or intelligence target gets too close to the ship, they call in the ship's nautical or otherwise photographic interpretation and examination team, or Snoopy for short. They get called like this: away the Snoopy team, away the Snoopy team, surface contact, port side. The team members must rush to the deck and get into position in less than...
Isn't this kind of a crude for US Navy? I would have thought some kind of a system or like electronic system would have been in place that you can see from computers or something. You actually call people with the binoculars, like, I mean, obviously it's high tech, but still.
5 minutes. These sailors determine the type of vessel, weapons on board, speed, size, direction of travel, any flags, and whether the contact is friendly or not. The goal is to collect intelligence and monitor the situation. Then document their findings. Goal is to collect intelligence
What is that, DSLR camera? That's insane. Look at the lens.
and monitor the situation. Then document their findings and send it to the ship's intelligence officer. That's all great, but in reality, the single biggest threat to aircraft carriers is a blow from below, and the US Navy knows it. That's why a few years back, they rented a submarine from Sweden. In 2004, the Swedish government received a request from the United States of America to lease Gotland, a Swedish-flagged submarine, and its personnel for 1 year. The US Navy wanted to use Gotland in anti-submarine warfare exercises, and the results were unexpected. Gotland managed to penetrate the defensive measures of Carrier Strike Group 7 undetected and snapped several pictures of USS Ronald Reagan during an
I mean, to be fair, Swedish are not a joke. Swedish are really good at what they do, right? Like in a lot of places, there are many Swedish things from, like I'm pretty sure Saab and, it's also like aeronautics. Saab is also in that. A lot of things, they can do. Gripen is Swedish, right? Scandinavian countries, Sweden specifically, is like really good at what they do, so that doesn't really surprise me. But yeah, that's like piercing through American thing. That should still be a concern.
exercise in the Pacific Ocean. In real life, this was equivalent to sinking the aircraft carrier with torpedoes.
Yeah.
For this reason, one of the most important roles of destroyers in a carrier strike group is ASW, short for anti-submarine warfare. See that massive bulge in the bow of the destroyer? That's the SQS-53 low-frequency sonar.
That sonar? Wow. All right. Again, another thing I want to say, in that exercise, probably US Navy told the Swedish submarine a lot of things and gave out a lot of information because it's an exercise that you wouldn't get in a real world scenario. You would have to get it for yourself, which might not be so easy. So usually whenever you hear about things in training exercises, think of it like this is US military's version of like, what if everything goes wrong and then we do something? Usually everything doesn't go wrong.
It can work in passive mode, where it simply listens for any submarine noises, or in active mode, where it sends out signals and listens for any echoes. Arleigh destroyers may also be equipped with towed array sonars, which can be reeled out into the water to detect submarines. The advantage of towed sonar is its adjustable depth, and that it can provide a larger detection area.
Of course, a destroyer has a hunting capabilities, even underwater. Why not?
Upon detecting a submarine, the destroyer could launch Mark 54 torpedoes via the ship's
Of course, a destroyer can launch a torpedo. It doesn't need a submarine. It can sink a submarine all by itself.
torpedo tubes. These torpedoes have a range of less than 6 miles. An alternative is to launch the Mark 54 torpedo using a missile from a VLS cell. This allows the ship to target a submarine without having to get too close to it. Once the missile is within range, the torpedo would get parachuted down into the water and home in on the submarine. There are also ASW helicopters on board the destroyers, which can go farther out to detect enemy submarines and deploy that same torpedo.
From a helicopter.
I should note that the first aircraft catapulted from an aircraft carrier
It is just so insane to me that a helicopter hovering over on the air throws down this torpedo that sinks inside the water and now hunts for the submarine. Because why not?
is almost always the E-2D Advanced Hawkeye. Cruising at 30,000 feet, its massive 24-foot rotating radome scans hundreds of miles in every direction, detecting and tracking targets more than 300 nautical miles away. Any threat it spots can be instantly shared with patrolling FA-18s or the ships in the strike group, meaning that even if a destroyer can't directly see a distant threat, the Hawkeye becomes its eye, enabling it to engage the target. In fact, all elements of a carrier strike group, from fighter jets to Aegis destroyers, are wired into one seamless web of overlapping sensors, functioning like a single enormous combat brain. But let's say all these layers of support fail. Can the aircraft carrier actually be sunk? No ship is unsinkable. During World War II, 5 American aircraft carriers were sunk by Japan. That said, since World War II, no American supercarriers have been sunk in combat, and that can be in part attributed to the improvements in ship design.
I mean, it's a super carrier. It's humongous with a ton of high quality metal. I'm pretty sure there was a time where US themselves were doing like target practice on one of the aircraft carriers and they couldn't sink it. US themselves can't sink their own carrier, which is insane to me. Like, they have the best tech, they have the best missiles, and they can't do it. How the hell anyone else gonna do it?
As well as the defensive layers provided by the ships in the carrier strike group. In reality, there is no need for the enemy to sink the aircraft carrier. Just some serious damage to the flight deck or disabling the propellers so that the ship cannot move fast enough could be sufficient to hinder flight deck operations. Because remember, an aircraft carrier that cannot launch or recover aircraft is just a really expensive airport floating in the ocean.
I'm not gonna lie, this is another reason why I think amphibious vehicles are too overpowered. Because this thing doesn't apply to them. If you destroy their launch pad, I mean, they would still have some area to move, and that's enough for F-35Bs to fly up. So they can still scramble jets to F things up. So Marines are already scary, but this makes them even more scarier. Any super carrier, like all the system, if they fail, this is like saying, what if we are so unlucky that an asteroid falls directly on the downtown city where we live in? Why would that happen? Most of the surface is not populated, and even among them, most of them are not cities. So likelihood of any asteroid hitting a city is slim to none. Why would all this system fail? They are not known to fail, and all of them failing together, come on. Like, at that point, it's basically sabotage. Just find somebody internal who screwed you up, because there's no way all that just failed. That would never happen. There you go. Again, like, show this video to a lot of pro-Iranian, somehow American people, but who are also pro-Iranian for some reason, who basically says like, oh, look at that, Iran just sank our military. You're the one who's paying taxes. Rather than rooting for your own team, you're basically downplaying your own military's power, which is the most powerful there is. Look at that. I don't know, man. All right, there you go. If you like my subscribe, and I'll see you next time.